I'm Trent, and this is Vision Preparedness.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well on this amazing Tuesday. Good to see everybody. Let's see who came in before we dropped in. Ontario Prepper, good to see you, my friend. Jules, good to see you. 300 Survival, my ride and die moderator, Triple Threat, Firearms and Defense. Good to see you. Dan H, Mad Shad. Good to see you this evening. Wolfang, my other amazing moderator, Donna Devine. Good to see you. The Polaran Message. Good to see you too, my friend. Welcome. Devil Dog Prepper. And everybody else that came in. Prepared Irishman. Good to see you too. All right, folks, I'm not going to hold, we're not going to hold this any longer. We have an amazing guest to talk about an amazing topic. I've had several subscribers and emails that talked about, could I do something about prepping in an apartment? And with that, I want to bring up a what I will consider a mentor in the prepping community to me. He's huge. You all know him. If you don't know him, you need to subscribe to his channel for sure. And without further ado, I would like to bring up the Angry Prepper.
What's going on, everybody?
Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm hearing myself.
Echo?
Yep, I'm hearing myself on your mic.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yep, you're fine. Folks, if you have questions, better. There you go.
Okay.
Folks, if you have questions, you can hit the ask a question here in the top of the chat, and we'll get rolling. First of all, thank you, Jason, for coming to spend some time and talk about prepping in an apartment. As we all know, you're in New York City, and you have been probably most of your life, if not all your life. And prepping in an apartment is actually, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, that's unique in itself. So basically, we'll start out with, I have tons of questions, and I know everybody else has questions also. But first of all, Jason, tell me when you prep in an apartment, what is your mindset?
First mindset is, now that I'm older, don't do it. Get yourself a house and get out of the city. That's the easier answer. But the more the more long answer, right, or complex answer is, you have to start with identifying space in your home, right? So before you. Obviously, you can start with food, right? You can fill up your cabinets and things like that. Mm-hmm. But if you are you woke up one morning, you're like, man, I got to start preparing. What do I do? You analyze your home. You analyze all the space you have in your home. You make sure that you can get things under a bed, under a couch, if you have one of those types of couches or beds. You see if you have room to build a shelf system so that you can add more gear and more supplies to there. Don't clutter your home, but don't underestimate what you can do with your apartment, which a lot of people do.
Gotcha.
Hold on. Okay. Let me know. Everybody in the chat, let me know how it sounds now.
Better now. Nope. Nothing. Yeah. So, folks, you heard you heard the angry prepper. First thing he says, if you can, get out of an apartment. He said, fill up your cabinets. Don't clutter the house. Prep smart and utilize the space you have. And we're going to go into more detail with that.
How about now?
Much better. There you go. That's
okay.
Good. Perfect. Perfect.
These mics that I use are not good with StreamYard for some reason.
Really?
Yeah. This is a good mic. It's a Rode mic.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So fuck this mic. Anyway.
Exactly.
So. Yeah, and I'm sorry. Go with the next question. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say you were talking about, utilize your space. Don't clutter your apartment.
Right. So, I mean, make sure you have a pathway. Make sure that if there is a fire, you have a way to get out. You're not stepping over shit, or even better, the firemen are not crawling over shit. And we've been in enough apartments like that where it's Kaya's mansion, which they don't like to say that phrase anymore, because apparently it's offensive to the Kaya's family that are still around, whatever.
Okay.
But if I'm not mistaken, the Kaya's brothers were two extremely introverted brothers that stayed home and they collected everything, right? They had a mansion. I think it was here in New York, maybe it was Chicago. But anyway, they gathered all of these supplies, newspapers, whatever it was, car parts. They just put them in their home. So one day they had a fire. And if I'm not mistaken, the amount of clutter they had from the floor to the roof to the ceiling, they only had about maybe a foot or two of room for guys to crawl in to go and get them. Right.
Wow.
So in certain rooms, not the entire house.
Okay.
And that term, Kaya's mansion, came from that. So when you go to a house and for example, when I was in EMS, there was a guy that passed away. And I guess he had the best kind of weathering ceiling around his window, because you didn't know the guy was dead. So initially, someone said they hadn't seen him for about a month or so. They go into his house. He had enough garbage that was probably up to your knees, and he had to go in looking for him. And he wound up dying underneath all his shit. So I guess he died, and some of the shit fell on top of him.
Fell on him.
Yeah. By the time they found him, he was already 3 months in.
Ooh.
Yeah. So.
I can imagine the smell from that.
I went inside, and I remember I was sucking it up just because I think there was a female cop there at the time. And I wasn't gonna play bitch and be like, oh my God, so I'm sucking it up. I'm like, this is horrible. Meanwhile, they're ready to throw up. They were acting a fool, the cops. And I was laughing at them. Meanwhile, I was like, this is pretty bad. So anyway, long short of it is, don't turn your house into that.
Yeah. My Bear 1900 says bricks with shelves stack up to the ceiling and cover with a sheet. So
wait, what kind of bricks?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. My Bear 1900 bricks, meaning to stabilize the shelves, or
bricks with shelves.
Because if they have,
because I'm thinking like cocaine bricks. That's what come to mind when I thought about that. I'm like, that's a weird prepper item.
So we'll go off topic real quick. Speaking of cocaine, are you going to go see that stupid movie, The Cocaine Bear?
Yeah,
me neither.
No way.
Yeah.
You know how bad it was? There's a chick in the movie. I think she's an Asian chick. She came out to the premiere like stripper clothing. And I'm like, and when I saw that, I was like, the movie's got to be that bad. That they're selling her as the main attraction for the opening of the movie. Now, the movie is a true story, but the bear died immediately.
Really?
Yeah, the bear didn't go on a craze run. He ate the cocaine, and then he died immediately. Right? Okay. He didn't go on his rampage, but they obviously Hollywood made it into a rampage, and supposedly it's supposed to be on par with Sharknado. Right.
Another horrible movie.
Yeah, so horrible. I had to watch all of them. I couldn't stop with the first one, man.
to make sure that everything was consistent with horrible.
Yes.
Okay,
this is really bad. I got to see the next one.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, I've had some questions that talk about, if there's an SHTF event or whatever, just basic storm or whatever, how do I secure my apartment because there's one way in or one way out?
So, Prepper Book Club, what's going on? So here's the interesting thing with apartments, and I wanted to do a more detailed video on it because what's his name touched on it. What's the prepper nerd? Not the prepper nerd with the program.
Prepper Now?
No, the other guy, the other nerd with the glasses. City Prepper.
City Prepper.
Yes, that guy. He touched on it. He touched on it lightly. And the one thing, for example, the apartment here I'm in, metal door, right? So a metal door, it's going to be all but impossible to get into unless you have something called a Halligan or a prying bar to get in. And if you have a prying bar, you have ample amount of time to set up and get ready for whatever's coming in, right? So most people won't mess with a door like this. You do still have some doors that are on a wooden frame that you can kick in because a whole thing will come out, right?
Right.
Some doors from back in the drug era, they still have the police locks on them, right?
Okay.
So some of them have I forgot what the hell it was called. There's a police lock where you have a metal bar. My grandfather used to have this one. It's a metal bar directly behind the door, and it's all but impossible to force. It would take firemen back in the days hours to force this door to get to a fire. So you still have that. A lot of the doors today, they're made of like heavy aluminum or light steel, whatever, like sheet metal.
Right.
If you kick at them long enough, they'll come off. If the door frame itself is secure, they're going to have a hard time getting in. So you have a decent door. It's going to take them forever to get in. And forget about putting anything in front of that door. They're really not going to get in. So your security is actually based on the door. Now, if you're a smart prepper and you got some, firearms, you could just sit there and wait for them to open that door. And as soon as they open the door, just let them have it in the chest,
Right. Exactly.
But the door system here is pretty good. Now, here's the other thing. You live in an apartment building, standard 5-story brick and wood apartment building, what we call tenements. A lot of those buildings are wood on the inside, and they're sheetrock, right? So sheetrock and wood. You could burn somebody out of that apartment or smoke them out. But if the fire gets out of control, the whole building goes. Right. So there is that if you're in a tenement. Now, the building that I'm in, you can set a fire in this apartment, and the fire will stay contained to this apartment. So they have firewalls. They're the brick and cinder blocks. Okay, gotcha. Right, and so the fire will burn itself out before it spreads anywhere. Right. So there is something called auto exposure. That's if I have the window open and the fire starts lapping out of the window to the floor above, or usually it's not usually, it's always the floor above. In some cases, it could be the floor below if some embers drop down and get into the floor below and start a fire there. Then you have 3 floors of fire, but still they'll be contained. You don't have to run out of the building. Now, I don't know how many times in this building and buildings like this, there were fires that broke out and people were running out of the building screaming. I'm like, yo, stay the fuck in your apartment. It's good, man. You're not going to burn. But people smell smoke and they panic, Exactly. So speaking of that, that was a great segue. So if you hear ruckus in the building, let's say there's a power outage and you just hear all hell breaking loose outside your door, most people by nature are going to open their door to see what the hell's going on. Right. So, the best thing to do is to stay in place. And I think you did a video on alluding to sheltering in place. Right. So if there's mayhem going on outside, you gauge what's going on outside by listening, right? If it sounds like 2 or 3 people getting in an argument, you could peek outside and be like, all right, what's going on? But if it's like a SHTF scenario and you hear some shit going on, stay in your apartment. The other thing, which I didn't mention in the sheltering in place, was the traps. The chick or the kid, I need help, where's my mommy? Or I'm getting raped. And then you run outside like Superman and 3 dudes are standing out there ready to pummel you, right? So you got to be aware of that because as soon as you fly outside, it's on. So you have to worry about traps, and traps are they're gonna be a big part of the SHTF because they're gonna play on a lot of people's heartstrings.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you use a woman or a kid, right?
Yep. Yes.
Now, if you use a guy pretending to be a chick and we hear a dude going, "Help me, I need help," I'm going to yell out the window, "You better defend yourself, fucko." Remember your original gender. Go back to that and defend yourself. But
exactly. So we do have some questions.
Go ahead.
The Prepared Irishman, he asked, "Did you get your top quilt?" I don't know what he.
Yes, the top quilt for. Oh wait, the underquilt or the top quilt? I didn't. No, the quilt. No, the top quilt that he showed me. No, I did not get that yet. I do need to get that. I knew I was going to forget as soon as I got home.
Exactly. We got another question from Mad Shad. He's asking, basically, how do you fortify your apartment?
Again, goes back to your building situation, right? If you're in a tenement, there are certain things you can do for like an alarm system, like again, glass outside in the hallway, right? If you are the last person in that building for whatever reason, and or the last person on that floor, and you know that, you put some glass near your door. If you hear anybody crunching by, it should wake you up. If you have a weak door, take the heaviest object in your home and put it in front of your door. It at least give you some time to get up and get ready for whatever's coming through the door. The old chair in front of the door might work. You can take something called a chock. I know that people know what that is. You could put that in the door, in the inside of your door, pressing in, and at least if they try to kick that in, it'll stop it for at least a second or two to get you to jump up and do what you need to do. If you have a fire escape, you have to fortify that entrance as well. If you have a terrace, most people won't climb down, but if they do, you could be in trouble because the terrace door is probably the weakest point of entry if they climb down or up the terrace. Now, when I was a kid, my brother and I, we used to climb up and down the terrace from the 21st floor.
Good God.
And it was, now that I'm older,
right.
And I was looking off the terrace, I was like, yo, we would have screwed up. We would have been done.
Yeah, you'd have died.
Right, we would have taken the express. So a year ago, I got locked out of this apartment. And so I said, shit, I got to get in. So I knocked on my neighbor's door and I crawled over the terrace section.
Okay.
Right. And actually, this was a few months ago. Now, I remember climbing over and thinking, this is going to hurt a lot more on the way down because, and so I got over, I opened it up. I made the mistake in telling my wife, and that was it, man. She went ape shit on me.
He went off on you.
She lost her shit. So that was probably like the last time I would ever do anything like that.
Right. So Triple Threat, she asked a question. What if someone sets the building on fire to burn you out?
Okay, so it goes back to, depends on the building you live in and the type of building you live in. A lot of the old school buildings, what we call tenements, they're anywhere between 5-6 stories. In Chinatown, they could be up to, I think, 10 stories. All right. So it depends on the building is going to dictate what you can do. Now, if you live in a tenement, you're going to have to leave. If you live in a building like this, which is a high rise or project building, which are cinder block walls all the way throughout the whole building, you don't have to worry about it. If they set the apartment next to you on fire, you get a little warm. They set the apartment under you on fire, you get a little warm. But if they figure out a way how to get gasoline under your door and light it up, as long as you move everything out of the way that's flammable, the fire will burn itself out before it burns anything.
Right. Good. Virginia Bushcrafter wants to know, what is one piece of survival equipment that you cherish over everything else and why?
Wow. One piece of survival equipment would be my brain, because all the knowledge that I keep in there, if I lost everything, I still know how to start a fire. Yeah. I still know how to build a shelter. Yeah. I still know how to get hunt for food, if you will, or trap food. So I would say that. Now, if you're talking about like a tangible item, I would say my knife. With my knife, I could do anything and everything.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that as well. And so Devil Dog Prepper asks, at what point do you leave the apartment or city?
That's a good one.
That is. That's
You
a
have
good
to
one.
you have to gauge the situation, right? So clearly, if it's something bad headed this way, obviously, if it's a nuclear war or something, and you're the last to know about it anyway, it's almost hard to leave and go anywhere until you know what's going to get hit.
Right.
The two schools of thoughts with nuclear is there was one article the other day that said major cities would get hit first. With that, a week later, another article said they would strategically hit military bases first to disarm the United States. So with both of those articles coming out, who the hell knows, right? When it comes to that.
Exactly.
If it's a situation where you're trapped in the city, I would wait till everything calms down and then beat feet.
Yeah.
Make a move. I wouldn't wait too long, though. If you are stocked up and you're in a secure apartment and you know no one's going to find you, I would try to wait it out. It would suck to leave everything behind just to go somewhere else where you have nothing.
Nothing. Right? Yeah, exactly. That's good. That's good. Sister Marie's Kitchen asks, what is the best way to fortify windows?
Well, windows here in the city, we have for the bottom part of window, we have what they call child gates, right?
Okay, yeah.
Right, so we have child gates, so that's one. They're pretty tough to take out in itself. If the person's skinny enough, if they get the window open wide enough, they can crawl over it, but it would be a pain in the ass, and you would see them coming. In an apartment, you can also put wood across and nail the wood into the frames to make it even harder. But you still want to give yourself access to that window to open and close. So I would probably put wood at the top sash of the window. So when I open it, now at least it's blocked with the wood up top, and I can still get ventilation from the bottom, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, we got questions rolling in left and right. So I have one for you. It's somebody asked me one time, I live in an apartment and I'm on the bottom floor. What do I do to secure myself?
Shit, that's a tough one because the bottom floor is where they look into. I would get, if you don't have an option of moving, I would get blackout curtains and or duct tape garbage bags to your window so that you black it out. If anything, spray paint the windows, then garbage bag it, and so that you have complete darkness so that they don't really know what's going on in there. If you do that right at the jump, by the time everything calms down, people are less likely to look in there because they can't see, and they might not want to take a chance. It also depends on the state you're in. New York City, people will take the chance. People will take the chance and break into the apartment. But other states like Texas, for example, they're not going to take that chance. They don't want to get shot, right? So they'll leave well enough alone in certain states. But when it comes to states like New York, they might take the chance. But if they don't see anything and they don't want to waste their energy, they might not go in there because it's blacked out and they're not sure what's in there.
True. So another question is, or comment is, I'm on the top floor of my building. Am I the safest?
Do you have... Shit. Take this later. Do you... Yes and no. Yes, because you can hear somebody coming up the steps.
Right.
No, if that person knows the building and they can drop down from the rooftop. So if you have an isolated building, you're safe, right? Somebody coming up the stairs, you'll probably hear. Hopefully you lace the staircase with glass so they make the crunching sound going up. Hopefully you sort of booby trap the bulkhead area. So if they go in there and try to drop down, you have them, dead to rights. You put some shit like, molasses or grease on the gooseneck ladder coming down so that they slip off of it if they're looking to do you harm. Hopefully you also have a fire gate in your window so you don't have to worry about them breaking in. So in essence, you are safe from people below, but if people know you're there, they can hang out on the rooftop of another building and also scope you out, shoot into there. It's a 50-50, but you're more safer than not because most people don't think tactically like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If I'm seeing this in the chat, folks, yes, have a box of glass ready. If you live in an apartment so that you can pour it outside your door, down your hallway, whatever, so you can hear somebody coming, which gives you, 5 to 10 to 15 seconds, if not longer, if they're trying to get into your apartment. And we've seen that on TV, the Equalizer was good at that. And everybody else. So, those are some of the things you can do to have ready to add to your preps. So we've got another question from Dan H. He says, Angry Pepper, good old school with securing your door, a bunch of screw and hooks around the door frame and a net across the whole door wrapped in the hooks can even hold a broken door in place.
That's not a bad idea. As long as you got good hooks, and that is not a bad idea. Right. I would use that method on a cheaper door. The problem with that method, if there's a fire in your apartment, now you got to unhook that shit, right?
Right.
So it's a give or take. So everything I go back to when it talks about security and stuff like that is fires. Now, fires are less likely to happen if you are super careful, right? If you live in an apartment like this where it's concrete, you're super safe because you're not going to have to worry about being burned out. But if you live in a tenement and you do that and you light the building up, now you're sitting there trying to get through screws to get this thing off, right? So it has to be able to be detachable quickly and also be strong enough to hold up in case they get through the door and they can't get through the net.
Right, exactly. Somebody asks, as always, when are you moving?
Yeah, listen, I'm still aiming for June, May or June.
Okay, nice, good. I'm actually glad to hear that, and I hope you and your family get to wherever you're trying to go and you get there safely.
Hopefully,
before all hell breaks loose, because every day it's something different. Folks, if you don't know the Angry Prepper, you need to. One of my mods, can you grab Jason's link to his page or all three of them? Again, folks, we're talking about apartment prepping, things to do, things not to do. What's your number one rule, Jason, not to do living in an apartment?
Shit, not to do. There's not, other than there are things you can't do, but as far as not to do, I guess during a SHTF, don't make too much noise. If you live in a building that has wooden floors, try to move as quietly as you can. For example, my other apartment, it was wooden floors, so I knew where the soft spots were. Right, whenever you step in them, it's like it's a giant creaking sound. You got to be careful with apartments like that, and I would say don't signal to other people that you're cooking. Right. So if you're cooking, you got to be really stealthy about it, and you got to be fast. You can't sit there and you could make a stew all day, provided that you direct the smell or the scents out the window. But it also depends on where you are. Now, if you're on the 21st floor of a building, it doesn't matter. Okay. But if you're on the first floor of a building, that matters a lot. You can't do that then, right? Right. We're going to smell it right away. So you have to think about cooking and how you're going to cook when it comes to stuff like that.
Right. So another thing, neighbors in the building. What about the neighbors you don't get along with and the neighbors you do get along with?
The neighbors you don't get along with, it depends, right? Their totalities of not getting along with somebody. There's, I hope you fucking die, I don't get along with you. And then there's like, you know what? I might help them out because, that kind. So it depends. It depends on each individual person. Obviously, if you like them, you're going to help. But you also got to keep in mind, do you have enough food and water to help? That's the more important thing, right?
Right.
You can't help people if you don't have enough.
Right.
The old building I lived in, I saved enough to feed like a couple more people for about 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Right.
So what do you do, Jason, if you know you have neighbors that are elderly?
You try to help them. You try to help them. You try to prepare for them. as well if you like them that much, you know.
Right.
You don't. A lot of people will write. Listen, if you just started prepping, you can't prepare for anyone else, right? You can't sit there and buy food for you and them when you're first starting out. But if you got a year or two's worth of food, then you can start adding additional food to it for that other person that you're concerned about, right? And listen,
Exactly.
I don't mean to sound callous, but if and when that person passes away, you got extra food.
True. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Or somebody comes and gets them and takes them away,
Right.
Family member or whatever. Yeah. So speaking of food and all that, and I just want to get your take because you've been prepping for a long time. What is your baseline for food and water?
Just starting out, your goal should be a month. The whole 2 week shit, throw that out of the window.
Right.
Throw it out, right? Your goal should be a month, and then every month after that should be an additional 2 weeks, so that you don't blow through all your money. When I first started, I went for a straight 6 months out of the gate, and I spent a lot of money doing so, like an idiot.
Right.
So I would say go for a month. If you are super strapped, then just do it 1 week at a time, right? So do the math in your head. Do 7 days, 3 meals a day. If you're eating 3 meals, in my family, it's about 2 meals. For me, it would probably be 1. It'd be down to 1. And then look at calories. How much calories is going to sustain everybody for those 3 meals throughout the day, right? And then you start buying how much. So what people normally do is caloric intake for the day per person, and then you divide that into 3 meals, and then that's what you buy, and then you stretch that out for a week, right? So you get I don't know, just a ballpark, 10 pounds of ground beef, right? That's a lot of fucking meat. But you get 10 pounds of ground beef, you pack it down to a pound per pack, and then you freeze it, right? You get X amount of can of food. Now you're going to be eating less, so a lot of people are under this misconception that they're going to eat the same amount of calories they're eating now. Not when you're that stressed out, not when you're worried about certain things, and not when you're worried about, all right, I got a year worth of food. The day the shit hits the fan happens, you got to start planning for your next meal the day after your last meal of that year.
Right.
So you got to already start planning and figuring out how you're going to get more food to prolong yourself past that point. Now, some people have like 6-7 years worth of food.
Yeah.
Even then, I would say when you get to the year 3 mark, you got to start planning that next meal after the last 3 years, right? So I would always tell people, 1 week at a try to build up to a year, and after a year, move forward.
Yeah.
Cut back now to 2 meals. The prepping artist is right. I would say that.
Yep. And I may eat twice a day. And, over the winter, I actually cut down and was eating once a day just to see how my body would react and how I would be, and to make sure I wasn't like hangry and, biting holes in the walls. But those are the things that we need to do, folks, because like Jason said, when you're in a stressful event, you're going to do one of 2 things. Either you're going to stress out and eat more, which you got to manage that, or you're going to stress out and eat less, and you got to manage that as well. Good Lord. Questions. Wolfang's asking, Jason, what do you think about the fire extinguisher balls? Pros and cons.
A lot of pros. I don't know the cons. I mean, I haven't done too much research on them, other than that they're pretty awesome. I watch how they extinguish. Yeah. You can use it for a certain area. I forgot what it was, but I don't know the cons because I didn't look that deep into it. But they're pretty impressive.
Right. So Mad Shad, and he's asking this question. That's why I'm laughing. He says, speaking of food, what are your thoughts about keeping spam to give to folks who come calling?
You can do that, or you can use it as a weapon. You choose.
I was waiting on that. I knew that said not throw the can at them and keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
Sister Marie's Kitchen asked, how do you handle noisy neighbors now and after an event?
Now, there's a lot of threatening going on. Depends on your neighbor, right? I've done it numerous times. Gone out 4 o'clock in the morning, knocked on doors, tell them to cut the shit off. Right. Go out to a bunch of dudes sitting in the car. It's like, yo, could you do me a favor and turn the fucking music down? Right. But you got to be aware when you do that, you could get into a fight.
Exactly.
Right? So I always went downstairs with something in my hand.
There you go.
And it didn't, and none of them amounted to anything. Guys are like, oh, we're sorry. They were smoking weed. They were high. They weren't paying attention. Right. And then, or they would just leave. Yeah. One incident I had where I called the cops, and I come downstairs. No, I didn't. Sorry, I didn't call the cops. I came downstairs, and I went to go tell them to turn the music down. Mm-hmm. So I go down to the cops. I'm like, "Were you guys here for them?" And then he goes, "Yeah." I go, "All right." And I start walking away, and the guy goes, "You called the cops on us?" I was like, "Listen, man, I didn't call the cops on you. I said I was going to ask you guys to turn it down. What? Mm-hmm. You're racist because you don't like Spanish music?" I'm like, "Why am I racist because I don't like Spanish music?" I said, "I don't like that shit because it all sounds the same." And he was like, "Oh," I said, "Listen," I said, "the cops weren't here right now, we'd be getting into a fist fight." I said, "But when they leave, we can get into a fist fight." I said, "I'll be back downstairs." So I went back, and the cop was like, No, get out of here. And I came back downstairs, and they were gone. Now, I'm not saying that they were scared. I think the cops just told them to, get out of there.
Move on.
Right. But it's fine to get into that now, but the shit ain't going to be fine when I'm in my 50s and when I'm in my 50s, when I'm in my 60s and 70s, and it's not going to be cool then. So
exactly,
I got a couple more years left to me of that shit, and then after that,
well, hopefully by then, when you move, you don't have to deal with that.
I hope so. Listen, my buddy lived upstate New York, and he had shitty neighbors.
Okay,
shitty neighbors. I'm talking about he was calling the cops on them probably once a week. All right. It was it was a decent working class neighborhood, and these fucking people were like white trash, man. They were just like, they weren't even meth heads, because at least that you can understand it. They were just fucking shitbags that were always being loud and always arguing, and so it doesn't always guarantee, moving out of the city doesn't always guarantee good neighbors.
Right. So one comment, Von Duncan says, if stuff hits the fan, I'm not cooking. I got tuna, peanut butter, Vienna crackers, so forth and so on. 58 years old. I got my lead and knife pepper soiree stun gun. Do I invest in another handgun or a shotgun?
Shit, I would go with a shotgun.
Yes. Shotgun is my go-to weapon. Yes.
Especially if they're all standing together in a group and they're threatening you. You can capture like 3-4 people, man. Just provided using bucks, right? Obviously, if you're using a slug, even a slug will put an impression in those dudes' heads for the rest of their lives.
Yes, it will.
When they watch somebody's head peeled back, they're just like, oh God, and they stand there looking, they're all frozen. They'll piss their pants and they'll run.
Yes, that is very true. And just the sheer sound is going to scare them too.
Oh, hell yeah. They'll even scare you.
Yes, absolutely.
Holy shit. What the fuck was that? Yeah, was that exactly. Me? Yeah.
Yes. So Jason, what do you say to an apartment dweller that's prepping that, may say something like, I've got everything I need?
There's no way they have everything they need.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could think of everything. There's always something that's going to catch you off guard,
right?
And granted, yes, if you have firearm, food, water, you're in a safe location, you're out of the way, you're on a higher up floor, you don't have to worry about fires because your building is fireproof.
Mm-hmm.
You could have everything, but there's almost no way, because I said there's something's going to happen. You're going to like, shit, I wish I would have had X, Y, and Z.
Right. Exactly. And, folks, the thing about apartment dwelling, it's not much different than prepping if you have a house, except for the space. And, if you want, I know, because if you live in an apartment, some things you could do, you could put longer screws in the door hinge And I know you're not supposed to change anything because of the apartment, but why not? What's your take on that? Putting in 3-inch screws into the hinges of the doors, Jason.
If you could, that's a tough one because let's just say nothing happens, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say everything is copacetic.
Mm-hmm.
When you take those screws out, you're going to leave holes in the door, and if you're willing to lose your security deposit, then it's fine.
Right.
Right. Yeah. If you're doing it for security reasons, I wouldn't do that until after the shit hits the fan.
Right.
If something's about to happen, then you start making these structural changes. It don't matter. It's not like anybody's going to come in and hold you to it. So whatever changes you're going to make, have the plan ready, but don't act on it now. Don't get it ready and then you move out 6 months later and then they're like, what the fuck did you do to the apartment?
Right. Why do I see 9-inch nails going into the frame?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So another topic, and this falls right in, got a question about solar generators.
Okay.
They're like, what type of solar? I live in an apartment. What kind of solar generator should I get? What size? I'm on a budget.
It depends on what you need it for, right? So if you need it for smaller appliances, then you go for a smaller generator. If you're looking to keep certain things running in the home, like you have a medical machine, a medical device that needs to be run on electricity, then you're probably going to want to consider something bigger.
Right.
If it's just to keep the kids entertained on their phones and stuff like that, go with something small. Again, it all depends on the use, right?
Right.
I would use a lot of the solar generators or power banks, if you will. I would use those for smaller items, again, like TV sets and things like that, to keep the kids entertained. Anything heavier, I would go with a way bigger solar generator, because the thing with solar generators in apartments are those go together like fucking peanut butter and jelly. They don't make any sound. They don't emit any kind of fumes of smoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can use the sun to charge it. You don't need fuel. You don't have to worry about keeping fuel in your apartment, on your terrace, on your fire escape. You just have these solar panels. That's the only risk, though, is recharging the solar generator on the roof of a building, because you could be seen.
Right.
That's the only risk.
Yeah. So, if you have a terrace or a balcony you can charge them on, you still have a risk of it being seen by somebody.
Right. But it also depends if you're facing the sun.
Correct.
Right. So like this terrace here, I'm not facing the sun at all.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So at least if I was on the southern side of the building, I could leave the panels here all day, and it would charge. Right. Here I get the morning and I get residual or what you call a residual sun. It'll still charge, but not the same. So I have to go to the roof and keep it up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Johnny Prep said, big appliances. And the thing is, if you get a generator that will power the refrigerator, you don't have to leave it plugged in all day.
Mm-mm.
You only need to let it run a couple hours until the motor kicks off and it's cooled down, then unplug it.
Right.
A lot of people, ask about, same with freezers. If you have a freezer, all you need to do is plug it in. And speaking of that, I saw a refrigerator that actually had a sticker on it that said, during a power outage, without opening the doors, these items will stay cold for 2 hours. I was floored when I saw that.
Oh shit! I thought it kept it cooler longer.
So did I, but it wasn't a standard size refrigerator. It was a smaller one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but that was the first time I've ever seen any type of claim about that. But normally your refrigerator will keep your stuff cold a long time, couple of days, if you don't open it.
Yeah, open and close it, and yeah.
Right, but the moment you open it, the clock is ticking.
Right.
Got a question here from Prepper Book Club. What is Angry's next big prepping goal?
I would say to get out of the city. That's the next big goal. Once I do that, provided where I move, which it's not looking good for a house right now, not here in New York. You know, I looked at too many houses that are just way overpriced for the shittiness they are.
Right.
I have looked at land that I can afford, but then to get a house built, it's probably cheaper. You know, it's probably cheaper. But my next big venture is to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Good. Question from Mad Shad. What do you do with human waste?
So that's always a good one. A bucket and dirt. You need a place to pull that out. So when I was living downtown across the street from the park, you can use the park dirt, right? So you have a bucket of that, and then you dig a hole, you take that dirt, you put it in the bucket, you guys take a shit or piss or whatever it is, and then you cover it with dirt. Then you go back outside and you take that same hole, you put that dirt with all the waste into that hole, right?
Okay.
So you're not creating land, what you call like potholes all over the place,
right?
And you could do that for a long time. I would absolutely add some like decaying leaves and stuff like that in there, because you can also refertilize the ground. I guess if you do it right, if you also add like food waste in there as well, almost like what is that called? Where you people
compost.
Thank you. It's almost
he
like
said compost. You people.
you people that live in houses, when you compost. It's like composting, right? So that's the best answer. Some people, believe it or not, will still shit in the toilet or still piss in the toilet. Now the problem is, once the water's gone out of the pipes, you can piss down the toilet all you want. You're going to get the worst smell coming back out of that pipe after a couple of weeks, if not a month.
Right. Yeah, because now you've got the sewer gas and all of that coming back up.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think of a large fire extinguisher as a defense tool against people? How do you handle? Well, that's the first question. Second question is, how do you handle the beggar at the door in an SHTF event?
Fire extinguisher, if you're going to go with an ABC fire extinguisher or ABCD fire extinguisher, that's like a powdered chem, right? So it's a chem fire extinguisher. You can use that as a self-defense because it'll blind the shit out of somebody. That shit in their eyes burns. It takes forever to wash it out. If I'm not mistaken, I think you need a solution to wash it out. So there is that. But if you're going to use that, you got to keep in mind it could be splashback, right?
Right.
So it could bounce off of them in your eyes. You got to consider that. You got to make sure their feet's away from you, whatever. And I would say more than 5 feet away if you're going to use that as a defense weapon. But it also double duty, right? It also put out a fire should one happen. Right. What was the second question?
Second question is, how do you handle the beggar at your door in an SHTF event?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because again, if it's a kid, you're inclined to feed them. If it's a chick, you're almost inclined to feed them. If it's a dude, you're skeptical, right? With certain women, I'm skeptical. A woman shows up at my door and she's like super clean, and I'm like, oh, something ain't right here,
Right.
With a kid, you're going to be skeptical, but less skeptical with the kid than you are with the two adults. Trying to tell them I don't have food could work in the beginning.
Yeah.
But if you're like 6-7 months in and you still look somewhat of the same weight, and then you go, listen, man, I don't have food. They go, bullshit. Look at you, man. You still fucking, you're still 307 pounds. Then you got a problem. So, some people say get clothes larger than your size to make you look skinny. The problem with that is people can look at clothing and identify it being larger. Yeah. If you know what to look for, right?
Right.
So it can work for some. If a person's starving and you see they're starving, you're gonna feel bad for them. So you might help. That's an on you kind of deal.
It is, because that also could be a setup if they send a kid to the door.
Yes. Right.
Or a lady.
Yeah. And the thing is, chicks and kids are going to be the two top, people to help. Like a dude, I could be cold and be like, get the fuck out of here if I blow your kneecaps off, right?
Yes.
But a chick, you're going to be like, damn it. Especially if it's, an old lady, like, 70 years old or whatever like that. And she's like, looking for something to eat. You're going to feel bad and you can't turn grandma away, right? So those are like the two that are going to get people in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Another question came from 300 Survival. What should a prepper do who can't afford buying land?
Shit, I'm in that same boat. And it's not even can't buy land. It's at this point picking the right land that's not poisoned. And if you can't, I would say try to team up with somebody who's also looking to buy land or looking at a bug out land. Because if you can't afford it, you can't get it. It's not going. Money's not going to materialize out of the blue, and it's going to be handed over to you, and you're going to get this land. I would try to say team up with a couple of people to buy land, but even doing that, that's a sticky situation as well.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say you're absolutely right. Now you got too many chefs in the kitchen. Right,
and I've seen those kind of deals collapse time and time again. Now, there are a couple of people that I know that I could start land with, right? And it's probably like, I'm talking about YouTubers. There's probably maybe 2 or 3 people that I would absolutely go in on land with. Everybody else, because I got to know them over time, I know that they can be a prick or will be a prick. But the other side of that coin is people change during an event, right? So the honest, squared away dude can become a piece of shit because now he's concerned about his family.
Right? Exactly.
There's always that as well,
Exactly. Orion Preparedness asks, do you both carry Silcock keys in your bug out bags? I just bought 3 of them the other day.
You know what? No, a lot of people are like, yo, you should. I said, I don't carry them. I don't, I don't see, because using that could get you in a lot of trouble, depends on where you are.
Yep.
Right. And so that's one of the reasons why I don't bother with it. I guess I should have one, but everybody talks about it. And I'm like,
yeah, for me, it would be a risk. It would be totally for if I'm trying to get home and run out of water in my truck.
Right.
Or if my well runs dry, now we got to go somewhere and find a building. So I have it to have it. I don't plan on ever using it, but if I need it, I got it.
It's not a bad way of looking at it.
Yeah. Uncle Tron says, have you considered buying an older, cheaper used car and storing it outside of the city?
Yeah. I spoke about this once or twice a while ago, buying a bug out car and leaving it on main land, which would be Jersey, right?
Okay.
And that's right across the bridge from me. Provided the bridge doesn't blow, I do have a raft to get over there as well. So I have a backup plan to that. And I was looking at some, and leave it to me to look at old cars that are like, I was looking at a 93, a cheap Cherokee 93.
Dude.
And they want like, the one I was looking at, they want $50,000 for it. Yeah. But it was like in pristine condition. I'm like, this is a nice truck.
Yes.
So I am toying with the notion of getting that and leaving it over on the other side of the river.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is that you got to at least once a week, if not every other week, got to go over and start it.
Start them. Yeah. Right? I was looking at a 1989 Suburban.
Okay.
That was in freaking mint condition, and they wanted $40,000 for it.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like I thought I was going to spend like 10, maybe 20.
Exactly.
Like $40,000, 50. What is wrong with you guys?
Yeah,
look at it. It's this, it's that. I'm like, but I guess if it's a bug out vehicle, and being that we're getting closer to this shit, I'm like, maybe I should. Now the other side of that coin is, do you leave fuel in the car? And like it's this. There are too many problems with that.
Yeah. They can break a glass, hot wire it, and it's gone.
Yes, because it's such an older model. Right.
Yep. You know, and I even looked at, you know, Jules just said it. I'm glad she said that. I looked at the EMP shield. I don't know if they freaking work.
So I was looking for mine, and I found it.
Okay.
Almost 2 years later.
Uh-huh.
Still in the box. The company sent it to me to do a video on it, and I lost it. Well, anyway,
Right.
I found it, but then I thought about it. I'm like, how do we know this works?
Yes.
You know, like we won't know until the event happens, and then even then, if it doesn't work, guess what? They won.
They
right?
won. Yeah.
Regardless, they won. They got our money.
Yeah. And that's that's the one reason why I won't buy it, is because if this thing doesn't work now in the SHTF event, I hope their whole company burns down and everybody in the company, you know, gets beheaded and stuck on a stick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if it'll work.
Well, here's it. Someone says Johnny Prep says military uses EMP shield. Okay.
Okay.
The other thing is, if you live in a city and you have underground parking, you can park your car underground.
Right.
Right. Your car is for the most part protected by rebar and steel. There goes its Faraday cage.
Right.
And that was from a doctor who was talking about this shit. He said like the likeliness of your car surviving an EMP attack underground is high, and the lower you go, the better chances you have. He says the only problem you'll probably have is not getting the gate up to get out.
Right, if it's a steel gate.
Right, because the power's down, and a lot of those places do have a backup system where you can pull the chain and the gate will go up. You also have that.
Okay. All right, it's 7:28, folks. Do me a favor, smash the thumbs up, thumbs down button. I don't care. Let's just send YouTube on their ears and say, what the heck is going on over there? We have one more question from Survive to Thrive. Question for both of you. Do you believe society will eventually crumble into a SHTF, no electricity, so forth, or will the elite prevent that from happening so they can continue to control us?
Well, the elite is going to keep the planet going for as long as they can.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're scaring us with, for example, I read an article the other day. They said we only have a couple of decades left before we fall into complete chaos because of climate change.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're scaring themselves or us, but I think they're going to keep it moving. Their mission to Mars is run by Elon Musk, but NASA's talking about it again, and there was a third company I could have sworn I heard was talking about making a trip to Mars. But I have to look that up again.
Was it Brunson that owns Virgin Mobile?
Might have been him.
Okay.
Might have been him. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, holy shit. It's like the TV show on Apple TV.
Yes.
Something Mars, right?
Yes. They're trying to...
Oh, for all mankind. For all mankind, yes.
That's it.
And in that show, it's like the same thing. You're like, holy shit. But with them was the Russians, the United States, and a private company. Yeah. But they're all trying to get to Mars. They're all trying to find life on Mars. And I think they said they found a microscopic organism. And they're all jumping up and down about, look at this, we found life on Mars. Meanwhile, those same people in that room are all for abortion and will tell you that a baby with a heartbeat's not life.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Imagine that. Yep. Imagine looking at an amoeba or this little thing that you had to dig through for decades. You find it, you go, oh my God, life. And then a lady's like, oh, my baby's heart's beating. That's not life. You can still terminate it. You know, it's insanity to me. So with that, I think the mission to Mars is the reason they want to get off this planet.
Yep.
I think we are going to destroy this planet I think we're at the point of no return.
Yeah.
I personally believe so. And if the planet does fight back, we're not going to like it.
No, we're not. And it's going to be total chaos and collapse, and every man and woman for themselves. And with that, folks, it is 7:30. Again, Jason, thank you so much. You, as always, you bring the heat. Folks, make sure you check out the Angry Prepper and smash the thumbs up, thumbs down, do whatever you like, share out the video. If you haven't subscribed to any of the Angry Preppers channels, please do so. Subscribe to everything. Good to see you getting the Angry Fitness channel back together. And I watched it when you talked about beginning a workout. I'm actually going to follow that and do that. So I'm with you on that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. With that, folks, everybody have a safe evening. And remember this, keep prepping because your family depends on you and it depends on your life. This is Vision Preparedness. We will see you in the next video. Everybody have a safe evening and God bless.
I'm Trent, and this is Vision Preparedness.